Hello guys, I think we are live now. This is just a little kind of a test video to see how this live streaming is gonna kind of work. So all I really wanted to do was set it up here, test out that the microphone actually worked, that you could actually see me, and just kind of figure out how it worked for myself. Or well, not see me, you can see the dashboard. I haven't actually got a HD webcam just yet, but what I was thinking of, we could get the webcam, and because I don't really have so much time anymore, maybe we'd be able to do maybe 30-minute videos just focusing in on what I'm actually doing, rather than me recording videos for a few hours and editing them, because I don't really have the time for that as much as I used to. But one thing I thought it would be good, because we can do a screen capture here, a desktop capture type thing, maybe we could have a look at CAD files and draw something up on CAD over a couple of evenings, and then if I had the HD camera set up, we could watch it being printed on the 3D printer and then test it out with a vehicle or something. That was the kind of idea. So let me just see what's happening on my channel here. I think if I go new visitor, so there we are, we're supposedly live. Let's see what this does. Sounds like that's working okay, so I'll go back. Oh, there's a couple of people watching as well. Let me see that. There's two guys, there's a live chat. Hello Raven Plate and Marcus ID, I think that is. Thanks very much for watching. I think we have a few guys there, that's pretty good. So let me see. Well, one thing I was going to mention was some people on other channels that I was watching, they were complaining that on the subscription thing recently, this little thing here with the bell has kind of started going off, so you've been automatically unsubscribed sometimes. Hello Model Iker, I think it is, and Mr. Pinkster1 and Cornish, welcome to the channel here. But this little bell thing has been knocked off there, and that's just if you want your notifications. Like some of the channels here, I get my notifications for all, say from Bad Obsession Motorsport. That's a good one, where they're making like they have a Mini and they're putting like Toyota Celica running gear into it, so it's pretty interesting from that point of view. Oh, but here's a good one here. David Hutchinson, he is the Moneydara agri-farm contractors. Let me see, I click in here, but this is a really good one. Moneydara Farm and Agri Contractors. So you want to check out those guys. They do great videos about using CQ control vehicles themselves, so they're a really good one to check out if you're interested in that kind of thing. So we have a few guys. Can't believe there's so many people managed to tune in already. It says we have 12 people watching and a couple of messages. It's really good. So as well as the subscription thing, the other thing I thought, because I'm just kind of making a little video here to just basically test out, and I'll see what it sounded like afterwards, and if it works out, then that'll be great. So the other thing, because I was talking about the 3D printing, I thought I'd mention this website here is GrabCAD. This is where sometimes I get little things for let me see, like bottles and you know, things that you might print, you might want for your little farm scenes. So let's say we wanted a barrel. So there's like little CAD files for barrel, so you could go and you could download that file. I think the step file would probably work. You'd download that, you'd put it into your CAD program and get it prepared so that you could scale it down to 132 scale size, and then you could print it over to your 3D printer and print it out for your little diorama. You'd have to print it out or paint it up, obviously. It'd come out looking like that, or in my case it'd be red. Well, you wouldn't get all this detail, that's the only thing. These things look good on the CAD pictures, when they actually print, you'd kind of miss all this detail. So that kind of thing. I was thinking of doing something like that as well in a in one of these videos, maybe. Like say, we could maybe not tractor. Maybe if we looked at a trailer, for example. So look, there's like a little water trailer. Maybe we could take that model and take it apart and see how that goes. See, I have more questions here. What about live Q&A? Yeah, you could ask me a few questions. I'll give it a go. Do I sell 3D printed parts? Not yet, but I had thought about that. But then kind of things got busy with work and that, so I didn't really have time. I got different coloured plastic for printing because I was going to try, say, print out pallets with brown material or have a grey material for parts of trailers and things like that. But I just haven't got the time yet. I moved house as well, so I moved house, got a new job, and kind of my time ran out really. So, but I did have intentions of printing 3D things. I had done a few things, like I had a little, what you call it, a kind of a trailer for carrying bales that I had printed out. So I kind of printed the main chassis and then an axle, and kind of those kind of things is what I was thinking of anyway. Okay, I see, Marcus, you're having issues with your Arduino and your NRF control. Maybe if you can give me more details, maybe I'll try and answer that. It's tricky. By the way, I do have like 150 unread emails, so I'm really sorry about that. I need to really get through my emails. Problem is, I start reading one email and then it can take me like 15-20 minutes to get the email answered, and then I've ran out of time again. Especially on the more complex emails. So that's what happened to me. I run out of time. Really, is my main problem. Let me see. So if you're trying to get it to work with the forklift, you could be working on the code that we're using, the libraries. The last set of libraries, they were working. So for those of you who don't know, you could go into controllers, and then the code was, what's the code? Yeah, so when you go down to the controller section on the website, you could shoot down here to controller libraries, and then you kind of got your different libraries. So that was probably for the main controller, that one. Oh no, how did I do this? I'm beginning to confuse myself now. I think I had the library for all the vehicles there, and there's the controller library up here. So that's when I updated the code for a different vehicle. I'd added up and added to the thing. NRF receiving inconsistent data. I see there from Marcus in the comments. Yeah, I did have that problem. Let me see, what would it really have been? When I first started it, I used to have a lot of these problems, and I think it was the NRF when the power was dropping on a lot of my circuits. I wasn't worrying about noise on the power lines. So for example, I might have had my 3.7 volt battery was fine, and then when the motor would drive or something, it would drop the voltage below 3.3 volts and the Arduino would be fine, but the NRF would drop out. And then once the NRF had dropped out, you kind of needed to reinitialize the NRF because you've lost communication with it. And because my code wasn't doing that, because it was assuming that the NRF was fine once you had initialized it the first time, it was dropping out. So I don't know if that's your issue though. Inconsistent data rates. I don't know about the data rates. It would be, I suppose, maybe it's that some of your data packets are dropping out, I'm kind of assuming that you're using a similar method that that's what I use, where I kind of send a packet every a couple of seconds, something like that, and if it drops out, see, when I started, I was sending the data in one packet when there was a change to the data. So instead of sending lots of data, and even though it was the same, you were still listening for it. I was sending one packet, and then if I missed a packet, things were going wrong. But now I generally send lots of packets, and they're mostly the same. But it just means that you don't lose anything. It's more important if you're driving towards something and then you lose the data packet, that your vehicle wouldn't drive into the wall, because a lot of these little gearboxes they break very easily. So that was a bit of an issue there. But I'm not 100% sure why you would have inconsistent data rates. I see another. Hootsman Green, you're asking, are we going to have a set time and day for live streams? Not 100% sure yet. I was basically just going to see how it worked first of all, and then hopefully, because I was trying to do the every Thursday evening I'd do it, but that hasn't really worked out for me so far, or since, well, for the last 2 or 3 months things have gotten pretty inconsistent. But if I can get an idea of what I'm going to do and start planning things, I might get back into a consistent streaming. And there is the notification option, so if I do get things figured out like that, I can set it up as an event, and then my event would or you'd get notified of the event coming up, and then you'll be able to know. But for the time being, it'll probably be pretty erratic. It'll probably just be, maybe I get home from work, I know I'm going to have half an hour, and I'll try and do something. How would I wire things up? Well, usually I'm working with the 3.7 volt battery, so I'd give the Arduino Pro Mini, I'd probably put the 3.7 volts direct to the VCC pin. Oh no, I need the well, let's take your system. You have 6 volts there with from 4 AAA batteries. This is Marcus. I've answered one of Marcus's questions here. You have 6 volts, so I'd put the 3.3 volt regulator to power the Arduino and your NRF and the chip on the yeah, but then you need 5 volts as well for the chip. Or no, I think you'd be able to use the 3.3 volts on the TB, on the motor driver as well. You'd be able to use the 3.3 volts, I think. So I'd get a 3.3 volt regulator to all of your chips. I'd have the motor powered directly from the 6 volts, and what am I missing there? I think that would be it. But the only problem is AAA batteries, there is a limit to the instantaneous current they can deliver. So if your motors need a big surge of current, there's a possibility that will drop your voltage down, and will cut off your power to your Arduino or your NRF for a split second. So if you get things reset, and see, I had that problem. I was using 3 AAA batteries, and they were running out really quickly, and I was having a lot of trouble with the battery, with the Arduino kind of resetting itself very quickly. But with 6 volts you might be alright, because there's a hell of a voltage drop, although as well as that, your 3.3 volt regulator is also going to have some issues dealing with that as well, or dealing with that kind of voltage drop. It might deliver current well at when it's at 6 volts, we'll say, input to the voltage regulator. Then when it drops down to 3.4, maybe it start to struggle and the voltage would drop even faster, if you know what I mean. Have I PCBs for sale? Well, not really at the minute. I have the makings of a few controllers, but I'm missing parts from the the kits, so I'm missing battery packs and stuff. That was another thing I wanted to get done at Christmas, but I never got any time. I wanted to go through what I have in my inventory and kind of build it all up, but I didn't get around to it, and that's another thing I still have to do. I started working on the little tractor boards as well, and you've seen that in a couple of videos. So I ordered more parts for that. I was missing crystals and things like that, so I have a few of those. But the only problem with these is all the pin spacing is 1.27mm, so it's very difficult to solder that. And as well as that, the way the V-scoring worked out on the first batch of PCBs is kind of nearly cut half of the pins that are running along the edge off as well, so kind of need to redesign that board. Not sure if I want to do another Kickstarter or not with that, or what would be the best method. See, really what you'd want is this little board with 1.27mm headers on it, so you could just plug in your motors and plug in your servos and everything, just plug it into the board rather than having to solder everything in. That would kind of be the ideal scenario, but for the minute I'm kind of just working with these. I'd be happy enough to sell some of these little prototype boards, as long as you understood that they were prototype boards and it's not exactly straightforward to get it working, Let me see, questions are kind of piling in here. Yeah, the 3.3 volt, Marcus, I see you're saying there your 3.3 volt regulator on your Arduino is powering your NRF. The 3.3 volt regulator on the Arduino mightn't be the best, because it could be assuming that you're going to have quite a stable voltage, because a lot of projects you're using Arduino for are generally things, usually be things that people would put in little boxes like sensors, and especially with the Pro Minis it's usually like maybe kind of an atmospheric sensor or a motion sensor or something like that. That's what usually people use them little things for, so the regulators mightn't be able to handle the voltage drop that would be caused by the motor starting up. When the motor's running it's usually fine, but it's the power required to get the motor spinning that draws down the voltage, and that split second could be enough to knock off the NRF that it resets itself, or like it's a brownout, I think. That would be the term, brownout timer, or it's just when the chip browns out it resets itself, I think. So you might have more success with a LiPo battery, or maybe, well, it depends on the size of the thing you have. Sometimes people would have a separate battery for the electronics and a separate battery for the motor, and that way you keep the two isolated and you don't get any voltage drops because of the motor. It's two different systems. Trying another battery pack, you could test it using two different battery packs, and if you still have the same problem, then at least you'd know that wasn't what was causing your issue. It could be something in the code. Another thing, if you're sending your packets too quickly, I've heard that can cause trouble. And I think if you drop the data rate of the or of the NRF, I forget it. I think as if you drop it to the lowest one, it's more reliable. Yeah, I think that was something I was going to try in one of my code, but then I can't even remember what the problem was. But I remember when I was working on the controller, just before the Kickstarter kind of finished, it was having trouble with data, but I was trying to come up with different solutions for them, and one suggestion was to drop the data rate, I think, to the lowest. But I kind of figured it out beforehand, so in the code it's not actually dropped to the lowest. Oh, that probably doesn't really help you at all. Let's see. 132 Scale Model Farms asking me where I live. I live around about Ballybay, so I actually went to school in Cootill, and my girlfriend was working on the little team that organised the Tullavin Fair, so that's how I ended up there before Marty Moon showed up. And walked across us to get to the stage. The only reason I go for the Mini is because the Nano has all the electronics that, well, I think it does. Let me just Google the Nano actually. It has all the FTDI electronics built in. So let me see. Yeah, see, you have as well as your microcontroller, you have the FTDI chip. I think that's the FTDI chip on the bottom of the board, I presume, anyway. So you have that extra electronics, which is brilliant for if you're doing normal projects. But when I'm trying to squeeze these things into the little tractors, there's just nearly no space at all, which makes things really, really difficult. So that's the only reason I'd go for the Mini instead of the Nano, really. Marcus, you have a quadcopter project. Have you got videos up for that? I did. I went to the camp in Coothill. Stock Caulfield. Let me see. I think I do remember a Caulfield, alright. To be honest, I can't fully remember the teachers at the camp. It's funny, we're on a global platform, but we're discussing local school teachers. It's kind of funny. Oh, and the Facebook page, I should apologise about that too, because again, when I ran out of time, the Facebook page was one of the first things to kind of fall to the wayside. So I just had no time for answering questions and things. It's been a bit of a pain in that respect, because I do enjoy answering your questions. I'm very happy to answer your questions. It's just when I kind of run out of time, I get home from work and then I maybe get one question answered, and that's all I can do, you know. And I haven't updated the libraries in a long time, simply because I haven't really added any new vehicles. One thing I want to do is you've all seen the what's it called, the Volvo A40D. So let me see. So this vehicle here, I was having a problem with. See, I'm loading these things up with gravel. It's not light. It's not kind of, we'll say, fake material. It's really heavy stuff. So the 3D printed axles wasn't fit to deal with that. So about 2 months ago, I got aluminium kind of U box. What's that? What's it called? Let me see. Yeah, so it looks like this, and it's the right size to fit the little motors, the N20 motors. So that was my plan for that. I was going to cut these kind of axle supports out of these aluminium sections, and that would really strengthen it up, because that would give it kind of what would you call it, kind of, well, give it more rigidity, so that when we actually got to pulling these kind of gravel loads, we'd be able to get all the wheels on the ground. The other thing was I kind of wanted to put a pin through the middle of these aluminium axles, so that, say, these two axles at the rear would be able to spin around a pin that was going from the rear of the model to the front of the model, if you know what I mean. So they'd kind of float independently. So when they're solid like that, if one wheel on the front goes up on a rock, it lifts the other three up off the ground. But if they were able to pivot independently, maybe we'd get more power to the ground, be able to pull more load. So that'd be the way. iForce 2D, haven't seen that before. Is that a YouTube channel? this is a suggestion from Marcus. Wow, they have a nice setup, nice CNC setup. There's some nice equipment there they have too. I never, well, I did when I first started off this. I tried to work on, use some old RC equipment that I had, or not RC equipment, like basic. I had an RC controller from, what were they from? They would have been from some RC helicopters, I think. But you know, being from fairly big helicopters, they were a bit too big, so they didn't really fit, and it left me with no space and no control. I could maybe get the motors and the servo in with the radio receiver, but you know, I'd get no LEDs. I'd have no control over LEDs. Then when I looked into it, the price of buying everything else was so huge, and you were still kind of limited that you know, I didn't really see the benefit. But there is guys who use these things, particularly if you're working on scales that are 1/16 or bigger. I'd say you're probably better off going with some of these things, because you can get gearboxes and all sorts of stuff from Tamiya that for those 1/16 Tamiya trucks, you know, all that sort of stuff is available once you go up in scale. But then again, you kind of need the space to use them. I wouldn't have the space for working on 1/16 tractors. I've barely the space for working on the 1/32 scale tractors, so that's kind of why I avoided that. One of those Chinese companies sent me a little quadcopter. It was pretty fun. That was the first time I'd flown one of those quadcopters. I got a RC airplane when I was about it must have been 12, and I had it first day, Christmas Day. Took it outside, but first flight, drove it straight into a transport box and a tractor and broke it in half. So that was my first experience with RC flying. Is Cheap Ass Quadcopter Project the name of the... Oh yeah, here we go. Let me see. Oh, I don't know if I better not do this, actually. I might get pulled up on copyright issues there. Okay, I'll take a look at that later on this evening. That looks pretty good. It looks like he made it out of... It looks like kind of laser cut wood or something, maybe. That's pretty cool. That was another thing. I always wanted the airplane that I broke. I always wanted to get like you know, RC fan. I don't know what to call them. Like these kind of fans. I always wanted to get one of these little fans and stick it into the little aircraft, because I broke the whole front of the aircraft, but the wings and all were grand. So that's another thing I always wanted to try and do, but I never really got time to it. I have a lot of projects here that I never really get time to do. I always wanted to make a few little robots and things like that out of old RC cars and stuff. I never really did. 1/32 scale model farms. Your controller, the battery leaked into the controller. Yeah, that acid, it kind of it corrodes the contacts. But if you clean the contact, well, I'm assuming that it's the contacts that you can see through the controller that you're talking about. If you clean them up, you'll probably get it to work, but you're gonna have to all the time keep cleaning it up every once in a while, because I think once they start corroding, especially when it's battery acid, it's very hard to stop them from re-corroding. So you might have to do it every once in a while, but it's still pretty good, or it's still gonna work for you. I mean, if it's corroded on the PCB, you could clean it, but the PCB should have a coating on it that kind of protects most of the contacts. But I've seen on industrial PCBs before where they've corroded along the track on the PCB, and once it's corroded along the track, you kind of have to start soldering little wires between the main component contacts, we'll say. But on a thing with so many surface mount components, it gets kind of tricky to do that, and I don't know, it gets a little bit difficult. But I'd say it's worth trying on that RC controller, because I'd say it's fairly robust. The one I have that I kind of soldered bits and pieces into it because it was given to me by one of the guys who watches the videos there. He met up with me at one of these shows that I did, the one in Castleblaney, and he knew that I had bought these two CQ Control 32 models, and I had none of this stuff, and he happened to have a spare one and a spare battery as well. He gave them to me, and that got me going for a couple of videos there that I was able to do and show you guys how to work on the Control 32 tractors to the small extent that I did. Now it wasn't a huge amount, but it was a little bit of a taste of Control 32 models. That's another thing. Some guys ask about, can I show you how to modify a particular CQ Control 32 vehicle, but I don't have the funds to go out and buy these tractors. That's kind of one of the reasons that I started doing making my own. I couldn't really afford to be going out and spending 250 euros on the trucks and the other things, so that's kind of one of the reasons I went for this anyway. I live in County Monaghan in Ireland, so it's kind of up near the border, if you're familiar with the border. I'm not really sure where my viewers here are coming from. I wonder, can I see a demographic or something on this? It just tells me that I have 11 people watching here, and stream health just keeps saying stream health is okay, check resolution. maybe the resolution of the I'm using a freeware thing called, what's it called now, OBS, not sure what it is, but it was the freeware version. Again, I don't really have money to be spending huge amounts. Oh, Aberdeen in Scotland, very good. I was only ever in Scotland once, just on a weekend trip with some of my friends. It's a very nice country. Wonder how long have we even been streaming here for? It tells me, oh wow, it's 32 minutes I've been here. It's crazy. So this was kind of impromptu, this one, I guess, but black frame around the video. Oh yeah, I can see that now on the, I think that might be this OBS thing. I just haven't figured out 100% how to work that. So I probably need to look into the settings of OBS to try and figure that out. That's like the encoding thing. What's going on? Screen's kind of changing. Maybe it's changing for you guys too. How the audio is okay. Someone said the audio was alright at the start. I have a USB microphone that I was using for some of this stuff before, and it worked out alright for that. Like, it's not an expensive thing. Was there a lot of snow? There was a little bit of snow up this way this week. Nothing too crazy. I had kind of work on Friday and Saturday, and I had no difficulty getting from here to Drogheda, so the roads weren't that bad. I remember a few years back there was quite heavy snow. I was able to test out some of the RC tractors in the snow. The main problem with that is that they don't really have the weight to push into the snow, so they just kind of the tires just spin. But if you some things like your, say if you took the like of this kind of vehicle, if you took the tire off this rim and you got maybe like fishing weights, the little lead weights that you can get, you can fill your tire with the weight. That should make it a little bit better. I normally have this field here filled with coffee grinds, so if you had more weight in the tractor, it could bury down into the weight, into that coffee grind. Maybe they need to be a little bit wet, because what you get, when it's kind of powdery, it's kind of hard to get it in. The guys from Munidara Agri Contractors, they have really good coffee grind that they got off. I think they got it out of a shop, out of like a coffee shop, a proper coffee shop, and that would have been ground in the machine, and would maybe be a little bit damp, and that kind of makes it a little bit better. You can dig into it a little bit better, but and there's a bit of mouse clicking. That's my microphone's right beside the the mouse. That was a bit stupid. Okay, I'll need to remember that in the future to get the setup a little bit better. But the coffee grind, they get it from a proper coffee shop, so probably a little bit damp, and it's just much more realistic. I just got a bag of coffee grind from Aldi and threw it into my field, because I have such a small field, and I was in Aldi and it was like €1 for this big bag of coffee grind, so that was perfect. Just threw that in the field, did the job for me. I didn't have to go looking for the coffee grind. But I do notice that it seems a little bit more powdery in it. When I'm with the the Money Dara guys, the vehicle seemed to have much more grip. But the big problem we were having in the snow was the weight. You just couldn't get the tyres to get grip. So filling the tyres with lead and things like that can help. But then you're going to have other issues with is your motor's going to be fit to turn all this weight, or will your gearbox put up to pulling all that weight? And then as well as that, when it comes to stopping the vehicle as well, you have more weight to stop. If you're trying to stop the motor on a hill, is the power going to break your gearbox then as well? So it's probably not going to be that big of a problem, but there's things to consider, especially if you're using plastic gearboxes. It's worth considering that. Okay, sounds like my little microphone seems to be working reasonably okay. I see model Aisher, I think that is. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your usernames incorrectly or that. But model Aisher is mentioning the CQIR protocol. That was pretty difficult to do, and only for that viewer who gave me the controller at the show I was speaking about a little while ago. Only for him I'd have never managed to do that, because I couldn't intercept it without that previously. And I got one protocol, so I think there's 4 different channels that CQ use, and I got one of them figured out. The rest of them aren't that much different. It's just a little bit of changing the time and the gap between the pulses, I think. But again, I never got time to look into that. That was another thing I wanted to do. There's a lot of things I wanted to do, especially with my controller, that once I started working full time and moving house and that, time has just disappeared. Using that, that's a good point. You could set up your an Arduino to receive to receive those pulses, and then instead of needing to have an Arduino based controller, you could use the secret controller. Model Aisher, did you do that yourself maybe? That could be an interesting project. I haven't tried that yet now, but it was another thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to do the receive as well as the transmit. So I worked on the transmit because I wanted it for the controller to control the Fent 930 model that I have. So that was why I was looking at that really. The first 4 bits made up the address. Okay, so that's interesting. So then it should be fairly simple to get the other 3. Well, if I get time, I'll have another look into that. It's good to have be able to talk to you guys like this when you can tell me these little things, because it's kind of hard when you do the video and then it's kind of a week or 2 between the thing, between the video and then when maybe I get it edited, and so that's the thing. Even finding time to edit the videos is quite difficult. But then there's kind of a delay, and I start to forget things, what way I did things, and you guys ask questions, I have to go back looking it up. That can be a bit of a pain from that point of view. But no, it's great. I love answering your questions, especially the technical questions, because it gets me thinking as well. Okay, I'm going to have to cut this little video at this point, because I think my dinner is ready. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for commenting. It was brilliant. I actually thought that nobody was going to tune in, that I'd be sitting here talking to myself, so that was great. And I thought this video would only be about 5 minutes long, because I wasn't expecting anyone to be here to talk to. Thanks for the comment on the Subaru Impreza video. One of my friends kind of had that idea, and I'm glad that it worked out so well in the end. Bougainville, if you send me an email, I will get round to it, but like I said, with the receivers, I don't have all the parts for the controllers, so that's kind of my issue there. But okay guys, I have to go, my dinner is on the table. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully this platform will work for us again in the future, and I'll do my best to keep it up. Thanks, and see you in the next video.